My name's Darren. I'm 29 years old, and honestly, if you'd told me half a year ago that Brielle, my girlfriend, the woman I actually thought I might end up marrying, would end up completely humiliating me in front of a packed restaurant, I would have probably laughed it off and told you to stop being so dramatic. Sure, we had our rough patches, but doesn't every couple go through stuff? That's what I kept telling myself, especially whenever Brielle tossed out one of her little digs. At first, her remarks came off like harmless jokes. But over time, they started hitting differently, more like tiny stabs than actual jokes. Like when she'd introduce me to her friends and say, "This is Darren. He's not rich, but hey, he tries," with that smirk on her face. Or when I'd surprise her with flowers, and she'd roll her eyes, muttering, "You still think that kind of thing works on me?" Now that I look back, yeah, the signs were all there. I just didn't want to face them. We'd been together for about a year and a half when everything finally came apart. Brielle came from a whole different world than I did. A world where birthdays meant exotic trips, not just dinner at a nice local joint. She was used to flying first class, carrying designer bags, and eating high-end sushi on random weeknights. I remember her once pushing a menu away like it insulted her and saying, "Life's too short for cheap food." That was just normal for her. Me? I'm just your average guy. I work as a mechanical engineer. Good job, stable income, solid benefits, but I'm not exactly swimming in money. I could afford a fancy dinner now and then, but dropping hundreds on a Chanel bag just because she felt moody? That wasn't happening. Still, she stayed with me. She even told me she loved me. But honestly, there were moments it felt less like love for me and more like love for how much I adored her. Every time I'd start wondering if I was really enough, she'd brush it off, laugh, and call me too sensitive, like I was the one being ridiculous. And somehow, I'd end up feeling like I was the bad guy just for asking. Then came last Friday night. Brielle had been in one of her moods all day. Short replies, dry texts, sighs so dramatic you'd think she was in a soap opera. I suggested we go out, maybe try to shake off whatever weird tension was hanging over us. She agreed, but from the way she said it, I could tell she was doing it just to shut me up. We ended up at this little Italian place downtown, cozy, quiet, warm candlelight, soft music playing, the kind of spot you pick when you're really trying to make someone feel special. I even made reservations ahead of time, which is saying something, because I'm usually the type to just show up and hope for the best. I really thought maybe that night could help bring her back, like it might remind her that we still had something worth holding on to. But the evening started off weird. She barely looked up from her phone, only pausing now and then to toss out sarcastic little comments. "You ordered the lasagna? Wow, that's basic." Stuff like that. I tried to laugh it off, kept trying to steer the conversation toward lighter topics. Asked her how her week was going, how work was treating her, what her friends were up to. All I got back were one-word answers, like she couldn't be more bored. Halfway through dinner, it hit me. She wasn't even pretending anymore. She checked out. Then it happened. I think I said something hopeful, probably along the lines of, "Hey, maybe we could plan a weekend away, just us?" Something like that. That's when she set her fork down with this loud little clink, leaned back in her chair, and let out the longest sigh I've ever heard. She rolled her eyes, so hard I thought she might pull a muscle, and then, with this smug look on her face, said loud enough for the whole room to hear, "You're lucky someone like me even dated you." Everything went still. Time just paused. Heads turned. Someone at the next table actually choked on their wine. I just sat there, completely stunned, watching her grab her purse, stand up, and toss her napkin down like she was throwing in the towel at a boxing match. Then she added, as if it was an afterthought, "Oh, and you're paying for this." And just like that, she strutted out. heels clicking, head high, like she was walking a damn runway. I didn't move at first. The whole place was buzzing with whispers, people sneaking glances my way. My face was burning, and this heavy knot was twisting up in my chest. Every part of me wanted to jump up, run after her, get some kind of explanation, try to fix whatever the hell had just happened. But then, something weird happened. I didn't get up. I didn't chase her. Instead, I smiled. Not a forced smile, or one of those awkward ones you fake to keep the peace. No, this one was real. The first real smile I'd had in what felt like forever. I picked up my fork and kept eating my lasagna. Slow and steady. Bite by bite, it started to taste better, like freedom on a plate. The waiter came by looking a little unsure, probably thinking I was going to lose it. But I just handed him my card, gave a generous tip, and walked out into the night air feeling lighter than I had in a long, long time. I went home and slept better than I had in months. And then, this morning rolled around. I woke up to 14 missed calls from Brielle. 14. There were texts too. Long ones. Panicked. Stuff like, "Can we talk?" And, "I didn't mean it." And, "You're overreacting." And, "Please answer." One message after another, coming in like rapid fire, like she could feel me slipping away and was trying desperately to grab hold before it was too late. I just stared at my phone for a while, feeling this strange calm settle over me. That aching part of me that used to crave her attention, her approval, her affection? It was gone. Just gone. Like smoke blown away by a gust of wind. And that's when something bigger hit me. Brielle never really loved me. She loved the idea of me. Loved the attention. Loved having someone around who adored her, who made her feel important. And when she was unhappy or bored or restless, she loved having someone to blame for that too. But the actual me, the real person I am, she never bothered to learn who that was. Not really. So I put my phone down. Didn't text. Didn't call. I got up, walked into the kitchen, made some coffee, and took my sweet time. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't scrambling to clean up after someone else's chaos. I wasn't trying to prove I was enough for a person who'd never really cared to begin with. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of it. Brielle wasn't the type to walk away quietly, especially not when her ego was bruised. And right on cue, as I was sipping my coffee and trying to convince myself this might be the start of something better, my phone lit up again. Except this time, it wasn't just her. Her best friend called. Then her mom. Then a number I didn't recognize popped up. One after the other, calls started coming in faster, more aggressive, like alarms going off. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about a slip-up or a regretful moment. Brielle was making moves. And from the look of it, I was the centerpiece of whatever drama she was about to unleash. I just sat there, watching name after name flash across the screen. Brielle's mom, Sienna, some random number with her area code. My gut told me this wasn't about patching things up. Brielle had a strategy, and I was right in the crosshairs. So I let the phone ring. Let it buzz. I flipped it face down on the counter and tried to focus on my morning routine. Coffee. Breakfast. Turned on some music. Tried to pretend it was just another Saturday. But my chest was tightening slow and steady. That quiet little alarm going off inside me was getting louder. Because Brielle didn't like losing. And she hated being ignored even more. If she couldn't guilt-trip me into crawling back, she'd find a new angle. By noon, I'd racked up nearly 30 missed calls, a flood of texts, and several voicemails, all from different people. Some were panicked. Others sounded pissed. A couple even flat-out called me heartless for breaking her heart. That line stopped me cold. Breaking her heart? Is that what she was telling people? Curiosity got the better of me, and I played one of the voicemails. It was from her best friend, Sienna. Darren, seriously, grow up. Brielle is wrecked. She's been crying nonstop since last night. You humiliated her. You made her pay for the whole dinner even though you know she's been struggling. After everything she's done for you? I can't believe you treat her like that. You need to call her. Now! Fix this. I almost dropped the phone. I was laughing so hard. I made her pay? I was the one who sat there, humiliated in front of strangers, while she walked out like she was making a dramatic movie exit. I was the one who covered the check while she flounced off, not even sparing a glance. But somehow, in true Brielle fashion, she twisted the whole thing and managed to paint herself as the innocent, broken-hearted victim, and me as the cold, ungrateful villain. That was classic Brielle. Always the one who got hurt. Always the one who deserved better. And if the truth didn't suit her version, she'd rewrite it. Still, I hesitated. Not because I felt guilty, but because I hate drama. I hate the idea of being the bad guy, even to people I barely know. And if her little army of friends and family were already lining up with their pitchforks, how long until the story got even worse? For a minute, I thought about sending a short text, something final, polite, emotionally detached. Sorry you're upset. I wish you the best. Goodbye. But I knew it wouldn't be that simple. Brielle wasn't looking for peace. She wanted control. And if I cracked the door open even an inch, she'd barge right back in, full force. So instead, I shut my phone off completely, set it on my nightstand, and took a deep breath. I told myself that today, for once, I wasn't going to let someone else's expectations run my life. I threw on a jacket, locked the door behind me, and headed downtown. There's this little bookstore I like, one of those cozy, tucked-away spots that smells like old pages and espresso. I spent hours there flipping through paperbacks, sipping lattes, chatting with a few people who had no clue who Brielle was. No baggage. No drama. Just me being me. And man, it felt good. Not just good, right? I didn't touch my phone again until that evening. And when I finally turned it back on, the thing nearly buzzed itself off the table, missed calls, unread messages, voicemails, all piling up like a digital landslide. One text caught my eye, though. It came from a number I didn't have saved. You're going to regret this. I promise. No name. No emojis. No signature. But I didn't need one. I knew exactly who it was from. I just sat there, staring at the screen, as a cold wave of realization hit me. Brielle wasn't finished, not even close. This wasn't just messy now. This was turning into a full-on war. I read the text again. You're going to regret this. I promise. It wasn't the words that got to me. It was the confidence behind them. Like she already had her next move lined up, and was just waiting for the trap to spring. I could almost hear her voice in my head, sarcastic, smug, certain. She probably thought I'd freak out, call her in a panic, apologize just to make it all stop. But something inside me had clicked that night at the restaurant. Not like a dramatic meltdown or anything. More like a soft, final click, the sound of a door locking shut for good. Whatever part of me had once loved her, needed her, held on to the hope that maybe we'd work it out, that part was gone. Dead quiet. But I wasn't stupid. Brielle didn't bluff. If she couldn't win me over with guilt and tears, she'd try to destroy the version of me I'd worked hard to become. And the fact that she'd already dragged in her best friend, her mom, and whoever else she could find, that told me everything I needed to know. She was gearing up. And I had to be ready. The first real sign came 2 days later. I was deep into a project at work, completely in the zone, when there was a knock on my office door. It was my boss. He had that look on his face, the one people get when they're about to say something awkward but kind of juicy at the same time. "Darren," he said, clearing his throat and stepping inside. "Just wanted to give you a heads up. HR got an anonymous email about you this morning." My stomach sank like a stone. "An email?" I asked, already bracing myself. He nodded, wincing a little. "Yeah. A few accusations. Nothing formal yet, but HR has to follow protocol, you know how it goes." He handed me a printout. I took the sheet, and as my eyes scanned the words, my heart started thudding in my chest. It was vague, sure, but nasty. Accusations that I was emotionally unstable, that I made women at work uncomfortable, that I was somehow a threat to the workplace atmosphere. No names. No situations. No proof. Just a cloud of smoke meant to make people wonder if there was a fire. I knew that writing. The tone. The careful way it tiptoed around anything legally risky, while still being poisonous enough to raise eyebrows. That was Brielle. 100%. She didn't outright lie, but she didn't need to. She just planted seeds. Enough to make people uneasy. Enough to make me question if I'd ever truly been safe around her. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't some outburst from a heartbroken ex. This was strategy. Brielle wasn't trying to destroy my job. She was trying to destroy me. In that moment, things became painfully clear. This wasn't about heartbreak. It wasn't about a messy breakup or even a bruised ego. It was about punishment. She was furious, not devastated. Furious that I didn't chase her. Furious that I didn't break down and beg. Furious that I just smiled, finished my dinner, and walked away from the circus. She'd wanted a groveling apology, maybe a desperate gesture to win her back. What she got instead was silence. Peace. And that was the one thing she couldn't forgive. I left work early that day, not because I was afraid, but because I needed space to breathe and think. I wasn't going to solve anything sitting at my desk while my phone buzzed with more calls from mystery numbers. So I hit the road. Took a long drive out past the city limits, along winding roads lined with trees, just starting to bloom with that soft spring green. I rolled the windows down and let the air clear my head. I thought about it all. About how I'd let someone like Brielle wear me down for so long, convincing myself that her barbed comments and manipulations were just quirks, just part of a complicated personality. I thought about how many times I'd told myself she'd change, or that maybe I just wasn't trying hard enough. And I thought about sitting alone in that restaurant, with a dozen strangers watching me like I was some kind of abandoned puppy, and how small I felt in that moment. By the time the sun started setting, bleeding gold and orange across the sky, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to sit around and hope she got bored and moved on. I wasn't going to let the next rumor or fake HR complaint catch me off guard. If she wanted to drag this into a fight, fine. But she had no clue what I was capable of when pushed. The second I got home, I opened up my laptop and got to work. I started collecting everything: voicemails, screenshots of texts, call logs. I backed it all up: external drive, cloud storage, even emailed a copy to myself just in case. Then I called my buddy Noah. He's a lawyer, not one of those fancy, billboard types with designer suits, but a real-deal guy who knows how to go to bat for people who've been messed with. The kind of guy you want in your corner when things get dirty. We met for coffee the next morning, and when I laid it all out, he shook his head and let out a low whistle. "Damn," he said, chuckling. "You should have brought this to me sooner. You've got enough here to bury her, man." I won't lie, it was tempting. The thought of turning the tables, of making her squirm for once, sounded satisfying. But at the end of the day, revenge wasn't what I wanted. Not really. What I wanted was to be free. I wanted peace. I wanted to build a life where people like Brielle couldn't even get close enough to do damage. Noah got it. He nodded and leaned back in his chair. You don't need to throw the first punch, he said. But you can build the walls. Make it so strong that if she tries anything else, she ends up wrecking herself instead. That hit home. I walked out of that meeting feeling stronger than I had in months. Like I had my feet planted under me again. Because I finally realized something Brielle never would. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't shouting louder. It's staying quiet while the other person screams themselves hoarse. And oh, Brielle was just getting started. Over the next week, I kept building my defenses. Every evening after work, I documented everything. Every missed call. Every voicemail. Every text, even the ones that came off sweet or remorseful. Especially those. I took screenshots of mutual friends texting me with concerns, messages that felt suspiciously rehearsed, like she'd fed them the lines. I even started recording some of my daily work interactions, just in case she tried to pull another HR stunt. It felt a little paranoid, yeah. But Noah kept reminding me, you don't win wars by hoping the other side fights fair. Meanwhile, Brielle's attacks moved into public territory. The cryptic social media posts started popping up. Nothing direct, she was too slick for that, but the kind of passive-aggressive stuff that made sure people knew exactly who she was talking about. One day it was, some people are so fake it's laughable. Next, it was a sad-looking selfie captioned, betrayal hurts worst when it comes from someone you thought was different. The comments rolled in fast. Her friends flooded her with hearts and hugs and support. And sure enough, I noticed a few mutuals had quietly unfollowed me. Classic Brielle. Manipulate the story, play the victim, and let everyone else do the dirty work of public shaming. But I didn't bite. I didn't clap back or post my side of things. I didn't try to correct anyone. I just watched, listened, and kept my receipts. Because this time, I wasn't going to let her write the ending. After that, Brielle started playing a new game, dropping subtle little hints that I had anger issues. Never anything direct, never anything she could get nailed for, but just enough to make a few people at work or the gym start giving me those quiet, suspicious glances. That was one of her talents, honestly, twisting the truth just enough to bend it, without getting her hands dirty. She knew exactly how to stir things up while keeping herself looking squeaky clean. But then came the real gut punch. About 2 weeks later, it hit me right in the face. I got served. Yeah. Right there at my front door, a process server handed me a cease and desist letter like I was some kind of criminal. It claimed I was harassing her, stalking her, that I was creating a hostile environment by refusing to stop contacting her. I actually laughed when I read it. I hadn't reached out to Brielle once since the night she blew up our relationship in that restaurant. Not a single call. Not a single text. Radio silence. This wasn't her trying to protect herself. This was her rewriting the script, turning herself into the victim and me into the obsessed ex who just couldn't let go. I could practically picture her, sitting there with her mom and Sienna, plotting it all out like some low-budget soap opera. The thing is, she had no clue that I had kept everything. Every attempt she'd made to contact me was saved, time-stamped, backed up, and organized. The receipts didn't lie. Brielle was the one who refused to move on. And now, with this bogus cease and desist, she'd handed me the final puzzle piece I didn't even know I was missing. When I showed Noah the letter, he lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. She just made this easy, he said, flipping through the printouts. We're not just playing defense anymore. We're going on offense. By the end of that same week, Noah had filed a formal response. Not just a denial, but a full countersuit. We hit back with harassment, defamation, and emotional distress. And we came armed. Every text, every call log, every voicemail. Screenshots of her social posts. Even the anonymous HR report. We didn't just want her to take it all back. We wanted real consequences. And because Noah knew exactly the kind of manipulator Brielle was, he also filed for a restraining order. Not because I was afraid of her, but because it sent a loud, undeniable message. She was the threat, not me. When Brielle got served, it was like someone flipped a switch. The flood of texts stopped. The angry DMs? Gone. The sideways glances at work? They faded too. Even people who'd once jumped to her defense started reaching out again, tentatively, cautiously, like maybe they were realizing the story they were fed wasn't the whole truth. I didn't answer any of them. I didn't have to. Her lies were collapsing on their own. The court set a hearing date 3 months out. Plenty of time for Brielle to stew in her own mess. Honestly, I didn't even care whether she showed up or not. Noah told me the evidence was so one-sided, we'd win by default if she skipped it. Then, a month before the court date, I got the last message I ever expected. It was from Sienna, Brielle's best friend. The one who'd sent that angry voicemail right after our breakup. It was just one line. "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of this." No explanation. No follow-up. No request to talk. Just that. I stared at it for a while, not even sure it was real. Then I found out what happened. Turns out, someone in Brielle's circle, still not sure who, had seen the mountain of proof Noah had pulled together. Word started spreading. People were finally learning the truth. The false reports, the smear campaign, the way she manipulated her own friends and family into turning on me. By the time our court date came, Brielle didn't even show up. Her lawyer sent over a weak little settlement offer, basically begging us to drop the countersuit if she agreed to retract her claims and keep quiet moving forward. Noah didn't even blink. "Nope," he said. And that was that. The judge ruled in our favor without hesitation. Brielle was ordered to pay damages, not enough to ruin her, but definitely enough to leave a mark. Enough to remind her that even manipulative people have to answer for what they do. But for me, the real win wasn't the money. It was the peace. Waking up without that tight, anxious knot in my chest. Going to work without second-guessing who'd heard what. Not having to constantly explain myself or defend my name. Just being able to live my life again. Fully, freely, and on my own terms. The last time I ever heard from Brielle came a few months after the court ruling. A short email. No subject. Just 6 words. "I miss you. Can we talk?" I stared at it for maybe a minute. Then I hit delete. No reply. No second chances. Because some doors? Once they're closed, they need to stay shut. And that morning, as I sat with a warm cup of coffee, booking a solo trip I'd been dreaming about for years, no drama, no guilt, no emotional grenades waiting to go off, I realized something Brielle probably never will. The best kind of revenge isn't burning someone else's world down. It's building a life so full, so free, so yours, that the person who tried to break you looks small and sad by comparison. And that's exactly what I did.